Hey business besties, welcome back to the Female Founder World podcast. I'm Jasmine, I'm the host of the show and the creator of the Female Founder World universe. Today I'm chatting with Ali Kaminetsky. She's the founder of Modern Picnic. Ali, welcome to Female Founder World.
You are now entering Female Founder World with your host, Jasmine Garnsworthy.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
For people that don't know Modern Picnic, what are you building?
We are building the first to market insulated vegan leather lunchbox company catered towards women.
Okay, so you're building basically very chic lunchboxes.
Very chic lunchbox.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually see a couple of the products in the front of us here. I've got them on camera. And also in the Apple Podcast app, you can actually watch the video there because I feel like you need to see it to really understand what it is that you've created. Because when you say lunchbox, you don't think about these beautiful like vegan leather products.
Childish,
yes,
little kid, you know, janky lunchboxes that we're used to.
So you started the business in 2016. You had just graduated college, right? How did the idea come about?
Yeah, so we launched in 2018. I graduated from college in 2016 and moved to New York City, was working in the fashion industry. I was working at Macy's doing Vine for them. And from like the first...
You're doing Vine?
Buying for them.
Oh, I was like Vine.
Vine. Oh my God,
around
TV.
in 2016.
I used to love Vine. No, not Vine. I was doing Vine for them. And I was bringing my lunch to work every day just because, especially as a recent graduate living in the city, doing so is so much faster, cheaper, and healthier. Plus, all the girls in my office are doing it. So I was like, okay, I have to start doing this too. Yeah. But when I went online to buy myself a lunchbox, I saw so many options for little kids, so many options for men, but none for women who wanted to look good or do good. So given the options on the market from there, the idea to start Modern Picnic was born. But I was only 22. I'd graduated like a week prior. And so it took me 2 years from like idea in my head to actually launching in May of 2018.
Amazing.
And I was working at the time, so...
And you launched, you were fully bootstrapped, you didn't have any investor funding. Were you just putting in the money from that you were earning from Macy's into building the business?
Exactly. And we were able, like, there was not a lot of spend. Like, the spend was really on product development and those kind of like first step legal formalities, like getting formation. And so it was really scrappy. And when we launched, quote unquote, launched, really just like made the Instagram public and kind of like took it from there.
Incredible. And like you said, you started with $0 marketing spend. So what was it that was kind of driving traction in the business? Because I feel like you immediately kind of like looked bigger than you were, which I think is kind of the goal for a lot of us.
And I think that's just like the name of the game. Even now people are like, oh, like how big is the team? I'm like, oh, no. We are tiny. Fake it till you make it. But yeah, so our strategy in the beginning was press.
Yeah. Reason
for that was I was creating a new category. Before Modern Picnic, there was no chic lunchbox on the market. Lunchbox, it had kind of like a negative childish connotation. And so I knew if I was going to get my girl to carry a lunchbox, somebody was going to have to say it's cool. It would have to, you know, she'd go to Vogue and Vogue would have to give it the stamp of approval. We'd have to get that social validation elsewhere. And at the time in 2018, that was through press. Now, you know, there's like influencers, there's TikTok. It was just a little different back then. And so I went straight to like the media. And what I did, because we didn't have a PR firm or anything like that, I just would Google like any and all article, like best lunch boxes for women, best work bags for women, best vegan leather products, female-founded companies you should look out for, et cetera, et cetera. And I'd find the editor, find her Instagram handle, and I'd just DM her and tell her like a little blurb about the story, and then I would connect with her on email and then kind of go from there. And so we got written up our first year of launching in Cosmo, Real Simple, Vogue, countless others. I think we had like over 20 press hits our first year of launch. We launched in May. And to date, we've been in the media over 400 times. So that was definitely our strategy in the beginning and still is.
I love to hear from someone who, you know, you're really scrappy and you did it all yourself in the beginning. This is something that we chat about in the Female Founder World group chat all the time about how to DIY press, because it's kind of, it's one of those things where that it is really relationship driven. But I think that if you have a good story and if your product is different, then you're going to be able to cut through. Like, it's just, I think that people who are like hitting that brick wall, you need to either find someone who has the relationship who can kind of like get you in, or maybe your product isn't differentiated enough, or you're not explaining what's different about it like clearly enough.
You have to, and this goes for like everything, whoever you're pitching, whether that's an investor or an editor or an advisor that you're trying to bring on, you need to make it easy for them and hand it to them. You don't want them to have to do any work for you. And so when I would be really intentional with my outreach and cater it towards and link to an article they had previously written about. And now, you know, there's like short lead, there's long lead, and we make sure I'm pitching to relevant stories and talking to the product in a way that they would want to hear about it. And slicing and dicing. I think the reason Modern Picnic has been successful in the press is there's a lot of ways to talk to it, whether that's the healthy eating component, the sustainability component, the kind of first of its kind component, fashion focus, function focus, female founded focus, like whatever it kind of is. There's a big, you know, new moms market, health and fitness, etc. So there's a lot of ways to kind of talk to it in the media.
But did you kind of like sit down in the beginning and think about like, okay, what are all of those like what you just listed out? Was that something that you intentionally did in the beginning, or were you just kind of like seeing what was hitting and then doubling down?
Definitely not. Like in the beginning, like we have to understand, I was 22. Like I was so naive. I was walking to work every day and was like, I need this product for myself. It was very insular. It was like, I need this, and I know my girlfriends need this, and so I'm going to do it. And I think there was this like naivete about being so young, and that I was just kind of like going with it. And I really was like, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. What's the worst that can happen? Me and my girlfriends need this. Well, that was very, you know, short-sighted, small-minded, that thinking just for me and my friends. Because once we launched and I started seeing, you know, people coming forward like, wow, I have an allergy and this is really great for me, or I'm a vegan, this is great, I'm a new mom, all of the different kind of markets. I was like, wow, this is great. This is bigger than I thought. And there's really a lot of ways for us to talk to this.
You were shipping from your parents' garage at the time, which like relatable.
PTSD for my parents and for me, but for my parents mostly.
What were some of the lessons that you had from that time as you were kind of trying to get all those pieces in place and kind of professionalize your process with working with your manufacturers and shipping and all of that like nitty gritty stuff that you need to get nailed before you can properly scale?
Oh my God. I mean, it was a crazy time, but I don't regret it at all because I learned so much. I was doing the pick, pack, ship. I was the 3PL. It's like kind of crazy, some of these stories. Like we were doing over $1 million at one point, shipping out of my parents' garage. At that point, it didn't make sense. At that point, it was almost like, this is poor business decision. Like you have to move out. We had totally outgrown the space, to say the least. And we were, I mean, there's so many stories underneath that of like how we kind of did that. But in the beginning, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
3PLs are incredibly expensive.
They are expensive.
And it's so important when you're starting and no matter what stage, to really have an understanding of the product and pick, pack, and the process of just the whole supply chain process. And so I was able to get really in tune with that and learn and understand like why were products coming back, why we were also able to have excellent customer service because of it. We still try to have excellent high touch customer service, but you know, there's only so much you can do. But for instance, like if I would mess up an order, the next order, you know, I'd send them something with a handwritten note from me. And like, it's not scalable, but it was like these little high touch interactions that we had in the beginning that I think really paid dividends because, you know, they're lifelong customers.
I think there's something really to be said for like you just mentioned, being in it so much in the early days, because when you go to a 3PL, like if you've been shipping yourself up until $1 million in revenue or whatever, maybe not quite that much, but you understand exactly what's working in terms of your processes. You know what questions to ask, and like going to a 3PL, you have to go in, physically visit the space, I think, and ask all of the questions about their standard operating procedures, how they handle returns, and then compare it with what you know works. Otherwise, like some of these 3PLs can truly make or break a business.
100%. And I mean, like we're kind of seeing this now. Like we've been with our 3PL for a couple of years now, and like it might be time to move on. And like understanding your process is so key, because otherwise, like you said, like, how do you know what questions to ask?
Yes.
I was able to train them on the process and then also learn from them of ways we can, actually operationalize and streamline the process. But I think there's just so many learnings to be had with customer service, pick-pack, the whole thing, working with our suppliers. So it was crazy. It was a crazy time, but I don't regret it at all.
I know that you also had a really big lesson with the way that you worked with your factory. Tell me about what happened.
Oh my God. So in the beginning, when I thought of the idea for Modern Picnic, I immediately got to work like that day. I like scurried home to my apartment with like a bunch of roommates, and I thought of the name for Modern Picnic that day. And I actually wanted Urban Picnic, but Urban Picnic was taken. So I was like, okay, Modern Picnic will do, which I'm so happy because it's a better name anyways. And that day I got the domain and got all of our social handles. There was no TikTok at the time, but I got like Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And I bought our domain. And I immediately kind of got to work, and everything felt very tangible and within reach to learn, except for manufacturing.
Yeah.
Felt literally and figuratively far off. I have no design experience, no manufacturing experience. Like, I had no idea how to begin the process. Everything else, like graphic design, legal, I was like, I don't know this, but like, I know someone who's a lawyer, or I can watch a graphic design video, or I can kind of figure it out. Manufacturing, not so much. So I ended up going through a broker in the beginning, which pros and cons. It ended up not being the right fit broker, because it just, I'll go through kind of like the pros and cons of that. The pro was like, I had no relationship to any kind of factory. Even if I was able to find a factory, we hadn't even launched yet. We were 2 years out from launching, so I don't know why they would take us seriously. I didn't speak the language, not just the actual language, but also the manufacturing product development language. And for those reasons, I went through a broker. The cons of that is I was working through someone, and I wasn't his only client. And all of a sudden, I had zero to no visibility to our supply chain, to our factory.
Because they own those relationships.
They own the relationship. Why would he tell me? So it was kind of crazy for the first like 2+ years of business. I never emailed with our factory.
Yeah, okay.
In the beginning, it worked. It was okay because it gave us a chance to get started and learn about everything. But there was a certain point we started raising capital and we started really scaling. And I was like, there's no way I can like do this and not have visibility for our
huge
factory.
risk. Totally.
Oh my God. I was like, so this isn't going to work. And at that point, we had enough leverage to be able to go straight to a factory and kind of establish our own relationships and start over in that regard. But it was definitely like the thing that kept me up at night the most, those like first 2 years of business, amongst other things, but just like the fact that I had no idea what was going on.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's such a good learning there. In 2019, you launched an ambassador program. Now there's like nearly 1,000 women in it. First of all, what is your ambassador program? Like, how is it structured? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
And then also, how does that actually impact the bottom line? Like, does it actually lead to sales? What's the goal there?
Yeah.
And then how did you get it started?
Yeah.
Lots of questions there.
Yeah. So our ambassador program, I definitely credit Michelle Grant for this.
Yes, who's the founder of Lively and Gorgie. Been on the show several times.
So
we love her.
Amazing. Love her. So Lively had an incredible ambassador program at the time. I think they still do. And so I learned a lot from her. But in 2018, we launched this program really just because people were asking us for us. These young women were asking if we had an ambassador program. And so at the time, there wasn't that many ambassador programs out there. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, HBO had like a college ambassador program. Rent the Runway had an ambassador program, but it wasn't the norm. It's just a different time. And so our ambassador program is not, there's no ROI attached to the program. We put $0 into acquiring ambassadors. It's completely community driven. And I think the real like big lesson with the ambassador program is to have that steady flow of communication with them. It's not enough to just send out one email blast a month and just keep them engaged that way. So basically, I'll back up and explain how our ambassador program works. So you go online, you fill out a really brief application. Once you're accepted, so before we used to do our ambassador programs, basically you're joined into the community. For us, that's a WhatsApp group and a Facebook group.
Okay, you've got like an actual like closed online space.
Yes. And so when you get accepted into our ambassador program, you get invited to events, activations. We just did a photo shoot like with our products, and the women can come, and they didn't even need to use Modern Picnic if they just wanted to get a headshot. That was totally cool. They find about new product launches first. They get early access, and we just have these kind of like meetups and events. So it used to be they would also get a discount code, and the more they sold with their discount code, we give them these milestone prizes. And I think this is an important lesson of just listening to the community and evolving. A couple years ago, that model worked. Now, anybody, regardless of kind of size, is an influencer in some way, shape, or form in their own right. And people want to earn money. And so we used to give these prizes, and we'd work with brands. Like we had a partnership with Swell, for instance, and if they hit X number of sales, like they'd get like a branded Swell bottle, and the prizes would get like larger the more they sold. Recently, I mean, a year and a half ago-ish, we switched the model to a commission structure. So now when they sell, they get a commission. So it's kind of like an affiliate ambassador. It's an affiliate program with like a bit more like love behind it.
Very cool. Do you use like a certain platform or something to manage all of this for people who are like, oh, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, we use Buzzbassador.
Buzzbassador.
Yeah,
okay.
and I met them at a conference, and their platform is just like easy to use, was affordable for the brand side, and yeah, it's been good so far. It's still fairly new that we've switched over, but I think the girls are happy.
Okay, love it. And then let's move forward, 2020. So you're a couple of years into business. Talk me through what was happening that year.
So it was in 2020 that I knew we were getting like the garage just wasn't working anymore.
You need to get out of mom and dad's house.
I had to get out of mom and dad's house like immediately. And I was like, okay. And I really just needed to like operationalize. Like, even like just on the back end ops, like I was paying contractors via like Venmo. Like I needed to get on Gusto. Like it was time for me to kind of like level up a little. Like it wasn't working anymore. And so I was like, okay, I need to like money to move to 3PL, and like I think it's time for me to raise my first round of capital. And so for me, I was like, what does that mean?
And you've done like $1 million in revenue by this point.
Yeah, we had like we were doubling and tripling every year. Like we were like, it was time for us to like get serious.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I have to raise capital, and was told by other people, Allie, you have to go raise capital. I was like, okay, great. Like, how do I do that? What does that mean? Like, I didn't even know like the definitions. Yeah. I didn't know like angel investor, VC, what's the safe, what's the convertible? I had no idea. Yeah. So what I did was, and this is just like, and I told, actually, at Michelle's event that we were both at, I saw Rebecca Minkoff, and I told her, I was like, your program literally changed my life. So in 2020, Rebecca Minkoff in partnership, and Allie Wyatt in partnership with UBS, launched this accelerator program called Project Entrepreneur.
Yep. Oh my gosh, I remember being part of, like, I wasn't in the program, but I was like part of the community and got all the emails. And then, what happened to that?
They
no longer.
They stopped doing it. Yeah. I was just so sad. But for the listeners, Project Entrepreneur was an accelerator program catered towards female founders ready to raise and scale. And I was like, that's me. I was like, perfect. Hi, that's me. So I applied for the program, and in the program, it was just amazing because you learned the foundation of raising capital, the etiquette of raising capital, the definitions, the process. Like, I didn't know anything. And so it was such a great program, not just from like the community and networking aspect, but also just like the education that I needed. Like, I really needed to be educated on everything. So it was also during COVID, and so it's like really nice to have like, you know, something to look forward to like that. So when I graduated from the program, I was like, okay, I know how to do this. Now I need to actually go out and do it. And so we ended up raising, at that point it was now turning into 2021, ended up raising kind of like a pre-seed. And it was a very much of a hodgepodge round because it was our first time raising capital. So we had friends and family in the round. We had high-profile angel investors in the round, like Michelle. And then we also had one VC. So it was just kind of like a hodgepodge. Yeah. But we were able to raise a little bit of capital, and that allowed us to move to 3PL and really like operationalize. Yeah. And also allowed us to triple the business, which was great. So I was like, okay, now we're moving and grooving.
Where are you at now in terms of revenue? Can you say, or is that a secret? Triple of revenue, like in my head, I'm doing the math of, okay, you're at $1 million. Like what?
We're a 7-figure brand.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious about when you quit that Macy's job. In the back of my head, I'm like, okay, when did you decide that this was your full-time thing?
Yeah. So I got really lucky in that Macy's. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Okay, it's okay.
Say it. As soon as someone says that, I'm like, well,
it's been enough time. Macy's put you through an incredible training program.
Yeah.
And we would like go to class the first couple months, and like it would be like 4:00 and the class would be over, and like we didn't have a desk, we didn't have a team at the time, so they'd be like, okay, you guys could like go now, bye. And so I'd be like, okay. So I was able to like,
you had time.
I had time.
Yeah.
And then even once I got placed at my desk, like we were so bottom of the totem pole, like assistant. We didn't even have a laptop to take home. We didn't have a phone to take home. So when I'd leave at like 5, I'd have the whole day.
Yeah.
And so I was really lucky in that I had like that before work, the after work weekends to really work on Modern Picnic. Like a lot of different careers like that are more, demanding, at least in the beginning. Like I wouldn't have had the luxury to be able to work on Modern Picnic day in, day out like I did. So I was working on I was working at Macy's for 2 years while I was working at
So you're getting close to that $1 million in revenue mark.
Oh no, before we launched.
Oh,
this is 2016 to
yes,
2018.
yes.
Sorry,
Okay.
yeah. So, and it was crazy. Like I would like during my lunch break, like run to like go look at like materials that like for samples and things like that, because we were kind of in the garment district. And then like 2 months before launching, so in like February, I quit my job. Reason being was with Macy's, you were not allowed in your contract to be a chief officer of any other company.
Yeah.
And even though my company hadn't launched yet, I was technically, by the formation docs, the chief officer. My mom's a lawyer. I was like, I didn't want to get in trouble with Macy's. And so I was like, let me just, I have nothing to lose, everything to gain. Let me just give this a go. Mm-hmm. And it was really scary because I'd worked really hard to get that job.
Yeah.
I'd gotten the internship that led to the job offer. Macy's is an incredible company. There was a really clear growth trajectory that if you work hard, there was a steady kind of path to rise up. And I liked it. But I liked Modern Picnic more.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to just give this a go. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I'll get another job if this doesn't work.
Yeah. Good for you. Now I know that wholesale is kind of a bigger part of your focus. When did that start becoming part of the business?
Yeah, so we started as a D2C brand in an effort to prove the concept,
Yeah.
build our brand equity first, and also tighten up our supply chain. Back to the garage, like even if we had the opportunity to go into retail wholesale, like we wouldn't have been able to operationally execute. We didn't have EDI in the garage. So anyways.
Also, for people that don't know, what's EDI?
Oh, electronic, what does EDI say? I was like, wait a second. It's basically how orders transmit from like the retailer to the, oh my God, that's horrible. I'm like, wait, what does EDI stand for?
I don't know what it stands for, but it means,
integration?
it basically means, it's like the communication system basically for like when you're trying to do wholesale.
Yes. You need it.
You need it.
So anyways, we wanted to do some things before, we needed to build the brand equity. We needed to tighten up. And so then in 2023, really last year, I was like, okay, it's like time. Let me start like focusing on this and actually, start going to trade shows, which is a whole other conversation. Start really outreaching and start focusing on wholesale expansion. And so last year we launched with Saks off 5th, the Container Store. We got up on like a handful of boutiques around the country. And we're launching with Bloomingdale's in the next couple of weeks. We actually, the holdup is some last minute EDI integrations, but we're ready to launch with them. So it's been really,
that's exciting. So you're doing a mix of like those mass retailers and the like independent boutiques as well. I always find that really interesting. How did so you said trade shows before. Is that the main way that the bigger guys found you, the smaller guys found you? Like what was your outreach and what was your inbound like?
Our trade shows, our trade shows were mostly for like boutiques. Yeah. I'm actually going to Chicago next week for the first time to the Inspired Home Show. So giving it a go. The trade shows are, I feel stressful because they're really expensive.
Yeah.
And there's no way to guarantee, and nothing in life is guaranteed, but with like, you know, marketing, you have data behind it, and you have case studies, and you know that this is a calculated risk. Whereas a trade show, you can't control who's going to come and who's going to come by your booth. And but anyways, doing so mindfully because they're very expensive. But it's been a mix of outbound and inbound. Yeah, I would say it's like a half and half mix of us reaching out and then also them reaching out.
Are there any specific trade shows that have worked really well that you want to call out, or have they all kind of been a mix?
All a mix.
Yeah, okay.
Because like we did Coterie.
Yep.
They're like going to be like, you're never allowed back after I say this. We did Coterie.
But it's so expensive. People need to know like what's working, what's not working.
One thing I will say though is ask the show for like, say I'm an emerging brand. If you're an emerging brand.
Yeah.
Coterie, we got like an emerging brand booth.
Yes.
And it was a tenth of the price.
Right.
Chicago, again, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I want everybody to know the tricks. I got a free booth.
Right.
It's not a full booth. It's kind of like a stand, but I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
You can get to Chicago really inexpensively. I was like, done. So ask the show. I will say Atlanta. We did the Atlanta show last January, and that we properly like paid for a booth. And I would say like we weren't ready. That was a miss. It was too expensive, and I wouldn't probably do that again until like, you know, we were in a better spot to make that kind of like financial commitment. So I'd just be really mindful to trade shows. The trade show industry has changed. It's like different now because you can just get to anybody via DM, email, LinkedIn. Like the barrier to entry.
Totally. The gatekeeping has like ended.
Totally.
The last thing I want to ask you about is crowdfunding. You raised a little bit of money earlier on, but then you went the crowdfunding route in 2022. Yeah. Why did you do that? What platforms did you use? Like, what are the learnings for someone who's thinking, okay, I think that crowdfunding might be right for me? And was it equity crowdfunding? It wasn't like Kickstarter, right?
It was equity crowdfunding. Yeah.
So all these people in your community have a piece of the business now.
Yeah, which you like. Yeah, you just said it, cool. Like, it's amazing. Like, we were this community-driven brand. I thought, like, how cool to kind of, like, flip the script and rewrite the rules on what it means to raise capital as a female founder, which we know the staggering stats against, but also to flip the script on what it means to invest in a brand you love. Investments is kind of like this, like, gatekeeping, you know, wall that you can't get access to. An angel investor, by definition, is a high net worth individual. So right then and there, your everyday, you know, your woman might not have access to deal flow. And so I wanted to kind of flip the script, and it was really cool. At Republic, you could invest in Modern Picnic for as little as $150.
That's the platform, Republic?
Oh, yes. We use Republic. There's tons of them now. And I can actually go into, I would do it differently. I'd use a different platform if we were doing it again. Again, another one that's going to be like, okay, Modern Picnic's out, never again. Just like, but yeah, so it was really cool. You can invest in Modern Picnic for as little as $150, regardless of age, income, demographic, any other barrier. And what's really cool for us is all of a sudden we have 100+ now brand ambassadors that are rooting for us and want us to win and are going to think of us as their next gift and are just going to be these, you know,
it's so powerful.
It's so powerful. It's cool. We raised about like $120,000. So it wasn't $1 million, but it was something. It was something. And but I think more importantly, aside from the money, was just like this really cool thing that we did. And it's really cool. And we use Republic, but there's WeFunder. There's
Why wouldn't you use Republic? Like, what was the thing that was missing, or are there just better ones now?
So just like investments, this whole investor world has changed. I think that's also trickled down to the equity crowdfunding. And back in the day, you know, equity crowdfunding, and still now, has this kind of like poo-poo to, you know, it's kind of, it's not as kosher and like the VCs look down on it, but that's like changed. Everything's just changed. And back then, because it's kind of equity crowdfunding was kind of looked down upon, Republic was kind of like the gold standard of equity crowdfunding. Like if you were going to do this, like you'd go to Republic. It's kind of like the gold star. Yeah. It's not the same anymore. That's not the case. Republic takes more equity than the other platforms. Republic charges
So they
more.
take a piece, basically. That's part of the model.
They take a piece.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, let me go to the one that's like the most respected,
Yeah.
the most well-known. But that's just not the case.
Yeah.
I would also say if anybody was going to do crowdfunding, plan for it taking whatever they tell you how long it takes, at least on Republic, plan for it to take 2x that.
Yeah.
We were on top of it. We were handing things in. There's an insane amount of due diligence with SEC regulations that comes with equity crowdfunding. So you really kind of have to have your ducks in a row to do it. But I think it's so worth it if you're willing to put in the time and effort, and make sure you're marketing it correctly, because like for our ambassadors and for just your everyday consumer, like you have to really, there's education involved.
Yeah.
It's different than going to an angel or a VC or an angel syndicate
Who understands what it means.
Totally. You know, so there was that education involved, which like I think we really realized from the beginning.
Okay, amazing. I said that was the last thing, but I have one more quick thing, because you were on Shark Tank and now you're profitable, and I just need to understand what happened this year, because it's like the beginning of the year that we're talking, and two big things have happened. Talk me
It's
through.
been like a buzzy year. Well, we filmed in September. Okay, so
You filmed last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also applied before, got rejected. So if
Interesting,
anyone's listening
okay.
and is like feeling like intimidated, or if by applying or unsure, just apply.
Yeah.
We applied, and if you get rejected, do it again.
Yeah.
We applied 2022, got pretty far along, didn't get it.
Mm.
I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. They told me reapplied, and I got it this time. Applied in
So
Jan
cool.
of 2023, filmed in September of 23, aired in Feb of 2024. So the whole process is like a year. And yeah, it was crazy. So February, it's now we're in the beginning of March, and filmed aired a month ago. So February was definitely like a buzzy, fun month. It was just kind of like crazy in terms of not just sales, but just like the PR that came from it, and just like the social that came from it. And we're just trying to kind of like stretch it out as far as we can now.
Amazing. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on everything you're building. I'm just so impressed.
Same to you. I'm so impressed. Like,
Oh,
you're
thank you.
amazing.
I mean, it's been, again, I need to do some more episodes about like how we're growing. Leave us with a resource. What's something that's been helping you as you've been building the business that you can recommend that other people check out? A book, a habit that you have. I don't know. I'm trying to think outside of the box. A Shopify app.
Yeah. I think to kind of shift your mindset, and you don't have to do things. You get to do things, especially in the early days. Like, you're in the weeds.
Yeah.
You're always going to be in the weeds, and like there's going to be things you don't like, things you do like, but just like try to remember this is such a incredible opportunity. And you don't
Yes.
get to do things. You don't have to do things. You get to do things.
Yes, that's exactly. Especially since having a baby, I'm like, no, I get to be doing this.
Right.
Like, this is
Such a
I've
blessing.
100% been trying to
Yeah.
change that mindset, because it does make a difference.
It does.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show,
you
Ali. This has been
so
awesome.
much. It's been so fun.
Quick shout out to all of our Business Bestie subscribers. If you are loving this show and you are building a consumer, CPG, or e-commerce business, or you're about to build one, this membership will give you access to the people, experiences, and the tools that you really need to build your dream business. Head to femalefounderworld.com/subscriber for more.